Picture this. You're visiting an aquarium in 1935, expecting to see some fish swimming around, maybe watch a shark get fed. But instead, you witness something so shocking, so absolutely horrifying, that it would haunt you for the rest of your life. That's exactly what happened on April 17, 1935, at the Coogee Aquarium in Sydney, Australia, when a massive tiger shark literally vomited up a human arm in front of horrified spectators. This is the story of the shark arm case, one of the most bizarre and disturbing murder mysteries in Australian history. Along with the Tim and Shud case, this remains one of Australia's greatest unsolved crimes. And trust me, by the time I'm done telling you this story, you're going to understand why this case has captivated people for nearly 90 years. The whole thing started on April 17, 1935, when a tiger shark was caught near Coogee Beach in Sydney. And when I say this was a big shark, I mean this thing was an absolute monster. 14 feet long and weighing over 1,100 pounds, this massive predator was found about 2 miles offshore from Coogee Beach. And instead of just killing it, someone had the bright idea to capture it alive and transport it to the nearby Coogee Aquarium for public display. Now, Coogee Beach was notorious for shark attacks back in those days. People getting attacked by sharks was unfortunately a pretty common occurrence in that area, so when this giant tiger shark was brought to the aquarium, it was quite the attraction. Visitors flocked to see this massive beast swimming around in its tank. But then something absolutely unthinkable happened. Right there in front of the paying customers, this shark suddenly started convulsing and then vomited up what was unmistakably a human arm. Can you imagine being there? You're having a nice family outing at the aquarium, and suddenly this massive shark spits out somebody's arm right in front of you and your kids. At first, everyone thought this was just a tragic accident. The area was known for shark attacks, so the initial assumption was that some poor swimmer had encountered this tiger shark, been killed and eaten, and the arm was just an undigested part that the shark couldn't process. It was horrible, but it seemed to make sense. Except when the police started investigating, nothing about this case made sense at all. The police immediately noticed some really disturbing details about this arm that completely contradicted the shark attack theory. First of all, if this shark had actually attacked and eaten a person, there should have been other body parts in its stomach, right? But there was only the arm, nothing else. No torso pieces, no leg fragments, no other human remains whatsoever. Even more suspicious, when they examined the arm closely, they found that it wasn't torn or bitten off like you'd expect from a shark attack. Instead, the arm had been cleanly severed, as if it had been cut off with a knife or some other sharp instrument. There were no sharp bite marks, no jagged edges from teeth, just a clean cut. The police concluded that this shark hadn't killed anyone. It had simply swallowed an arm that was already floating in the ocean, probably thrown there by whoever had actually committed the murder. The police were now dealing with a homicide case, and they desperately needed to identify the victim. The arm they recovered was a left arm, extending from the shoulder to the fingertips. What really caught their attention was a distinctive tattoo on the inside of the arm. It showed 2 people boxing. There were also clear rope marks around the wrist, suggesting the victim had been tied up before being killed. The biggest problem the investigators faced was that the victim's fingerprints had been severely damaged by the shark's stomach acid, making it nearly impossible to get a clear identification through normal means. They were stuck with just this arm, a boxing tattoo, and rope marks to go on. Then one day, a man named Edwin Smith walked into the police station and changed everything. Edwin claimed that the arm belonged to his brother James Smith, and he had photographic proof. He showed the police a picture of his brother that clearly showed the exact same boxing tattoo in the exact same location on James's left arm. The match was undeniable. Edwin told the police that his brother James had gone missing about 10 days before the arm was discovered. According to Edwin, James had left for a vacation at Cronulla Beach on April 7, 1935, and had checked into a place called the Cecil Hotel. Edwin said he had spoken to James by phone while James was at the hotel, but that was the last contact anyone had with him. James Smith had simply vanished. Based on Edwin's testimony and the photographic evidence, the police officially identified the victim as James Smith. They immediately launched a massive search operation, working with the Navy to try to find the rest of James's body. But they never found anything else, just that one arm. Now that they knew who the victim was, the police focused on finding the killer. Edwin provided them with some crucial information about his brother's activities. He told investigators that he suspected James had been involved in drug smuggling, and more importantly, he knew who James had been planning to meet. The last person James was supposed to see was a man named Patrick Brady. The police brought Patrick Brady in for questioning as their prime suspect. Brady admitted that he had met with James Smith, but he claimed they had just had a cup of tea together and then parted ways. He insisted he had nothing to do with James's disappearance or death. But then a taxi driver came forward with some damning testimony. This cabbie told police that on April 7, 1935, the same day James Smith went missing, he had picked up Patrick Brady from in front of the Cecil Hotel. The taxi driver said Brady was carrying a large bag and seemed extremely nervous and agitated. Even more interesting, Brady had asked to be driven to the home of a wealthy and prominent Australian businessman named Reginald Holmes. Now, Reginald Holmes was a big deal in Australia. Born in 1892, he was a successful businessman and philanthropist who was widely respected for his charitable work and community involvement. He was exactly the kind of person you'd never suspect of being involved in anything shady. But when the police started digging into Holmes's background, they discovered he was living a complete double life. On the surface, Reginald Holmes was this upstanding citizen who donated money to charities and supported various causes. But behind the scenes, he was deeply involved in drug smuggling operations. It was like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, respectable businessman by day, criminal by night. When the police questioned Holmes about the Patrick Brady visit, his story was absolutely explosive. Holmes told investigators that Brady had come to his house in a panic, confessing that he had killed someone. According to Holmes, Brady demanded £500 to flee to England, and he threatened to expose Holmes's drug smuggling operation if Holmes didn't pay up. Holmes claimed that Brady had brought James Smith's body with him, and that Holmes himself had disposed of the corpse by dumping it in the ocean. This testimony was exactly what the police needed. They immediately arrested Patrick Brady on murder charges, and the prosecution was confident they had their killer. The trial was scheduled to begin on June 12, 1935, and it looked like this bizarre case was finally going to be solved. But then something happened that turned this already strange case into something completely insane. On the very day he was supposed to testify at Brady's trial, Reginald Holmes left his house to go to court and was found shot dead in his car. The key witness in the case had been murdered just hours before he was supposed to give his testimony. With Holmes dead, the prosecution's case completely fell apart. Without his testimony, there wasn't enough evidence to convict Patrick Brady of anything. The charges were dropped, and Brady walked free due to insufficient evidence. The timing of Holmes's murder was so suspicious that everyone immediately suspected there was a much larger conspiracy at work. People believed that someone with serious power and connections had ordered Holmes killed to prevent him from revealing the truth about what really happened to James Smith. The case had gone from a simple murder investigation to what looked like a massive cover-up involving drug smuggling, corruption, and multiple murders. The mysterious death of the key witness meant that the truth about James Smith's murder would never be known. The case went completely cold, and it remains one of Australia's most famous unsolved crimes to this day. Patrick Brady continued to maintain his innocence for the rest of his life. For 30 years after the trial, he consistently denied any involvement in James Smith's death. Brady eventually died on April 18, 1965, at Concord Hospital in Sydney at the age of 76, taking whatever secrets he may have had to his grave. The shark arm case represents everything that makes a perfect unsolved mystery. You've got a bizarre method of discovery that sounds like something out of a horror movie. A victim with connections to organized crime, suspects with questionable backgrounds, a key witness who gets murdered at the most convenient possible moment, and a justice system that ultimately fails to solve the case. What really happened to James Smith? Was Patrick Brady the killer? Or was he just a convenient scapegoat? Who ordered the murder of Reginald Holmes? And what were they trying to hide? Was this really about drug smuggling? Or was there something even bigger going on? Nearly 90 years later, we still don't have answers to any of these questions. The case also raises some fascinating questions about the nature of evidence and justice. Here you have a situation where a shark literally became a witness to a crime, providing the only physical evidence that a murder had even taken place. Without that tiger shark vomiting up James Smith's arm, this would have just been another missing person case that nobody ever solved. It's worth noting that this case happened during a time when forensic science was still pretty primitive compared to today's standards. There was no DNA testing, no advanced ballistics analysis, no sophisticated crime scene investigation techniques. The police were working with witness testimony, basic fingerprinting, and not much else. Who knows what modern investigators might be able to uncover if they could examine the evidence with today's technology. The shark arm case has become a part of Australian folklore, inspiring books, documentaries, and countless discussions about what really happened during those few weeks in 1935. It's a story that has everything: murder, corruption, conspiracy, and one of the most unusual pieces of evidence in criminal history. What's your theory about what really happened to James Smith? Do you think Patrick Brady was the killer? Or do you believe he was framed? And who do you think was powerful enough to order the murder of Reginald Holmes right before he was supposed to testify? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you're fascinated by unsolved mysteries and bizarre true crime cases like this one, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss our deep dives into the world's most perplexing criminal cases. Trust me, we've got plenty more stories that will blow your mind and keep you guessing for days.